Holy Gospel according to St. John, the 15th chapter. Jesus said, I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine grower. He removes every branch in me that bears no fruit. You have already been cleansed by the word that I have spoken to you. Abide in me as I abide in you. Just as the branch cannot bear fruit by itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. Those who abide in me and I in them bear much fruit, because apart from me you can do nothing. Whoever does not abide in me is thrown away like a branch and withers. Such branches are gathered, thrown into the fire, and burned. If you abide in me, and my words abide in you, ask for whatever you wish, and it will be done for you. My Father is glorified by this, that you bear much fruit and become my disciples. As the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. Abide in my love. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. I have said these things to you so that my joy may be in you, and that your joy may be complete. The word of the Lord. Please be seated. I'd like to invite Aaron to come forward at this time.
Good morning. Thank you for having me here. I would have again done the children's sermon, but I've discovered a cough that won't leave me alone, and so I'm trying to save my voice as much as possible so I don't cough quite as often. People often ask me, especially in the fall or early winter, people often ask me, what do I do when camp is closed for the year? And I always kind of smirk to myself and politely say that camp doesn't ever close. I'm always working. And so then I let them know that we have, board groups or board retreats will come out, church councils, we have quilters, we have men's groups, we have youth groups will come out. We do our own programmed retreats. We have a genealogy retreat. We have different paddle building retreats. We've got a little bit of everything that keeps happening. And so when I explain that, camp stays open and we keep doing things, it kind of usually will give me, even family members will kind of look at me and go, okay, so then what do you do after camp ends in the summer? And so I have to think long and hard because I never really know what I do. That's not right. But what my job is essentially once summer ends, summer starts again. I spend most of my time planning for, preparing for, and getting ready for next summer. So I think it's 2019 right now, because it's been 2019 for me since August, so it gets kind of confusing. But the biggest thing that we do, besides to go out and try and find summer staff, is that we write our Bible study. We at VLM, we often write our own. We come up with our own ideas, both myself and Brett, the other program director at Camp Vermilion, but also with Gretchen Bachman and Joel, our executive. The four of us kind of sit down, this year sat down basically right when camp ended and kind of figured out what we were going to do for this next summer, and we decided on weaving joy, where J stands for Jesus, O stands for others, and Y stands for you, much like the song. Oddly enough, we didn't take it from the song. Gretchen had thought of it a while back at some sermon she had heard down in the cities, but it's not just where joy is those things, but it's kind of looking at the relationships that we have with Jesus, the relationships that we have with others, and the relationship that we have with ourselves, and how all three of them build each other up. If one of those three things starts to fray, if you will, our whole life kind of gets a little bit messier, and so it's when all three are working together that our faith and our lives can be as strong as a three-corded rope. And so since then, I've pretty much, anytime there's three things at all, I think, oh, that could probably be part of our Bible study. Three Musketeers, I'm sure I could figure it out. I'll hear different ads on the radio or see stuff on TV, and I go, oh, yeah. Joy, Jesus, others, you, sure, And I'm not sure if it's because it's going to be an awesome Bible study and the kids are going to it's just going to connect with them, or because I've just put way too much time into it. But I am seeing these things everywhere, and it happened today with this reading. I don't know, 2 months ago was part of the lectionary. I don't know if you guys are following that or not. You may have heard this before. But it jumped out at me then with faith, hope, and love as Jesus others you. And I was like, oh, man, this has got to be joy. And then I was like, no, Aaron, you're wrong. You're just thinking too much. And then I thought more about it, and I was like, no, this does work. This makes sense. And so from the Corinthians reading today, if we look at faith as a belief in Jesus, we got J, or God. It doesn't have to be just Jesus. Hope would be a belief in yourself. Hope is that internal thing that, I think I can get through this, or God has given me enough strength for me to get through this, or whatever. So we got Jesus, we got you, and so then love would probably be others, yeah? No? That's enough nods. I'll let it go. And so obviously it's not just that the belief that other people exist, because I think that's easy to argue, but it's the belief that other people are important. They're worth our time, our energy, our love. To truly love someone is to believe that they are worth your love, and which is why we should love everyone, because everyone is worth our love. But that's a different sermon. So then this whole passage really does lift up our summer theme of weaving joy, not just having joy, but weaving joy. If I were to focus exclusively on my faith and get to the point where I can remove mountains, but in the process I ignore myself or I ignore my community, what do I have? According to Paul, nothing. Also, if I focus on myself, if I build up my own knowledge, my ability to prophesy, and yet in the process, I ignore my faith, or again, I ignore my community. What do I have? I got this head full of brains and no one to share it with. And finally, if I give and I love and I pour out everything I have into other people, and I don't take the time for myself, and I don't take the time to keep talking to God, to be right with God, at some point, I'm going to run out of energy, and I'm not going to be able to help anyone, especially myself. It's only by balancing these three that these relationships that we can get, if we get to a good place with God, while also growing ourselves, taking time for ourselves, while also loving for others and caring about others, that we can grow as Christians and live out our call. And part of seeing joy everywhere is that I realize that what makes camp so awesome is that we already do this. We set aside specific time for kids to grow in their relationship with Jesus, with our Bible studies, with our worships, with just a lot of our intentional time that we set aside. We also set aside time for our campers to grow in relationship with others through our summer mission fund. They can give to help other people. We also ask them to do chores for other campers, and oftentimes cabins will do random acts of kindness for other cabins. So we build in this time. We also build in a time for them to grow themselves. We give them a chance to learn new skills with our different activities and our journey program. We give them time away from technology to figure out who they are without their phones. We give them some independence, who they are without their parents and their siblings even sometimes, figure out who they are. And so we set aside all of this intentional time for these people, not just our campers, but also our staff. But for anyone who's been to camp, whether it's family camp, whether it's a retreat, whether it's anything, that all this stuff happens unintentionally too. It happens in those moments that we don't plan for. It happens in conversations at dinner or at breakfast, worshiping during family as a family during family camp, whatever it is, even though we set aside specific time to grow in our faith, hope, and love, it's always happening. And I realized a couple weeks ago that it's even in our mission statement. Voyagers Lutheran Ministry provides opportunities for Christ-centered, oh boy, thank you. It's a long day. Christ-centered spiritual growth. relationship with Jesus or faith, leadership development, ourselves, and outreach, others in God's great Northwoods. So it's not only part of what we do at camp, it's so important to what we do that we've made it our mission in this world, that this is what we want to do. We want to help people grow in their faith, hope, and love. But Aaron, you may ask, according to the reading, isn't the greatest of these love? If they're all important, how can there be a greatest? Which is a great question. I'm glad you asked it. That was a really good pity laugh for how many people are here. Thank you. And it's not that love is take it back. It's not that the belief in myself or a belief in God is less important than love. It's the greatest because it's the only way that we can share our hope and our faith. Without love, we can build up this incredible faith and this incredible knowledge. But without loving and sharing with others, what good are we? Without a community to pour into and build up, what's the point? I know that the joy that we weave this summer with our campers is not going to stay with them. It's going to come back into our congregations. It's going to spread out. It's going to form an even tighter knit in our faith community. And I look forward to spending time with your campers this summer as we continue to weave faith, hope, love, and joy